September 6, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. The old farmhouse had been empty for 8 years. Not abandoned, just unsold. The listing described it as a charming colonial with original woodwork and a functioning fireplace. For bedrooms, wraparound porch, a field of dying apple trees. Kara and Daniel bought it because it felt like a fresh start. Someplace quiet, somewhere far from the city. A place where they could actually breathe again. But in their second week, the chimney wouldn't draw. And when Daniel looked inside, he said, "Something's stuck in there. The smoke problem." They lit a fire their first cold morning. The house filled with smoke. They checked the damper. Open. The chimney had been swept before the sale. They saw the certificate. But still, smoke wouldn't rise. It billowed out across the living room like a slow exhale. They stopped using it after that. Switched to space heaters. Avoided the hearth like a wound. Until one afternoon, Daniel decided to take a better look. He reached up and pulled out a rib. Not a stick. Not charred debris. A rib. Small. Dry. Old but intact with the same arc as a child's. He dropped it on instinct. When Kara saw it, she stopped breathing. Daniel said maybe it's an animal, even though they both knew. Animals don't have clean ribs like that. They don't leave fragments that feel handled. And they certainly don't wear bracelets. More bones and something stranger. Over the next 2 hours, they removed a partial skull, 2 vertebrae, a femur, a copper charm bracelet with no signs of heat damage. The bones were clean, like they'd been placed gently, not burned, not broken. Worse, the inside walls of the chimney had handprints. Small ones. Oily, like from a child's skin. One print had fingernail scratches trailing upward like someone had tried to climb out. The police came and left confused. Sheriff Hewley showed up with a deputy. He took the bones, took pictures, said he'd run them by the coroner. Kara asked if they belonged to someone. He paused before answering. "Ma'am, they don't belong to anyone who's ever lived here." "Meaning what?" Daniel asked. "Meaning, no one reported missing fits these bones. Not just from this house, I mean from the whole damn county." "How old are they?" "That's the thing," he said. "Not very. The bracelet doesn't appear in any database. It wasn't jewelry store quality. More like something from a fair or local market, handmade copper links, dangling initials. LSC. But no missing persons with those initials. No local reports of anyone under 12 with that name. The charm wasn't scorched or warped, just polished as if worn regularly. No soil, no soot, just placed intentionally. The house's previous owners never had kids. Records go back to 1928. 5 different families. None of them had children listed on census or sale documents. One couple had 3 cats. The last occupant, a woman named Evelyn Crowther, died alone in the house 8 years ago. No visitors, no relatives. Her fireplace was sealed with concrete. They find a note tucked inside the chimney frame, folded into a corner, barely wedged behind a loose brick. It reads, "Don't unblock it. I tried that already. She always comes back." Signed, EC. They try to sleep. Kara dreams of smoke. Not choking smoke, breathing smoke. Moving like lungs. In and out. Carrying a voice. It whispers, "I lived here before you. I lived here longer." She wakes to the smell of apples. But there are no apples in the house. Just the dry trees outside, barely holding fruit. The air by the fireplace is warm, even though no fire was lit. The chimney starts to breathe. Not metaphorically. You can feel it. Standing near the hearth at night, it exhales gently, rhythmically, like the draft of a sleeping animal. And sometimes Kara swears she hears, "Don't cover me again." Final scene, September 8th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. The carbon monoxide detector goes off. Daniel wakes choking. The house is heavy with a burnt smell, but no fire. He checks the flue. A new object lies just inside the hearth. A small, pale jawbone. With baby teeth. All intact. All clean. And carved into the bone in tiny, precise letters. "I was never missing. You just forgot how to look." The bones didn't belong to anyone the records could trace. But something lived in that chimney, and now that it's unsealed, it wants more than space. It wants to be remembered. September 9th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. The sheriff never came back. Not for the jawbone. Not for updates. Not even to explain what the coroner had said. Daniel left 4 messages. Kara left 5. When she finally reached the station, the deputy on duty told her, "There's no open case for your property. Are you sure it was our department that responded?" She was sure. She still had the business card. But the name Sheriff Hewley, the name on the card, didn't match any current officer in Windham County. The chimney breathes louder now. They hear it every night. A slow, steady inhalation, followed by a wheeze, like a child snoring. Sometimes the breath gets caught, like there's something caught in the throat of the house. Daniel places a thermometer near the hearth. The room holds at 62 degrees Fahrenheit, but the brick just above the fireplace measures 102.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Kara holds her hand against it. It shudders. The jawbone is gone. They left it on the mantel, sealed it in a freezer bag, labeled it. But when Daniel gets up at 4:17 a.m. to check the breaker that tripped again, he notices the bag is empty. No signs of a break-in, no blood, no paw prints, just one small tooth on the floor in front of the hearth. And a faint whisper he almost misses. "I only took back what was mine." They find a name etched in the brick. Kara's fingernail catches on a scratch in the mortar, hidden under soot. She brushes it off. There, etched shallowly into the stone, LSC, same as the bracelet, same as the teeth. She traces the letters. The flue shudders and exhales what smells like cider and decay. They ask about Evelyn Crowther. She's the woman who owned the house before. They find her obituary dated 2015. It's short, no family listed, but it mentions she was a retired schoolteacher. They visit the local elementary school. One older teacher remembers Evelyn. Strict woman, never married, wore gloves year-round. Always said the chimney in her house was her child's grave. Kara freezes. Did she have a child? Not that anyone ever saw. They pull up Evelyn's floorboards. Underneath the dining room, they find a buried baby doll, a copper spoon, a water-damaged sketch of a girl with empty eye sockets. The journal waterlogged and unreadable, except for one page. "If you read this, I failed. I only wanted her to sleep." The girl in the smoke. That night, Kara stays up watching the hearth. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the room dims. Not the lights, but the color. Everything fades to gray. Smoke trickles from the flue, though no fire burns. In the haze, a face begins to form. Eyes closed, lips parted, freckles, hair made of curling smoke strands. A girl, 9, maybe 10. She doesn't move. She doesn't speak. Until Kara whispers, "Are you LAC?" Then the smoke girl smiles just slightly and vanishes. Daniel starts dreaming in ash. He wakes with soot in his nose. On his pillow, a smudge shaped like a handprint. He remembers a dream. The house was on fire, but nothing burned, only rearranged. The hallway stretched into the hearth. Kara was inside it, sleeping. The girl knelt beside her, whispering stories about a family that never let her be born. A bag appears in the attic. They never stored anything up there, but it's there now, tied shut with black ribbon. Inside, the child's nightgown, unburned. A small photo of Evelyn, younger, holding hands with a girl who's blurred completely. A charred envelope labeled, "Not for the next family." They open it. Inside, she was never born, so she found a way to be remembered. I taught her the alphabet. She taught herself how to stay. Final scene, September 10th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. Smoke curls again. Not just from the fireplace, but from the vents, the staircase, the drain. It gathers in the living room, pooling above the hearth. Kara reaches toward it. Inside the smoke, a ribcage forming, slowly knitting together. And a whisper, layered, echoing from behind the walls. She needs her name spoken aloud, or she'll keep growing it. The flue exhales once. The copper bracelet falls out, landing at Kara's feet. This time, it reads, Lucille A. Crowther. She wasn't stillborn. She wasn't lost. She was never real, and yet she insists she lived. Her bones don't match any file, but she knows the house, and she wants the rest of her story back. September 11th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. Daniel takes the bracelet to the local historian. The woman behind the desk, Mrs. Alder, examines the copper carefully. She squints. "Crowther, you said?" "Yes. Evelyn Crowther. She lived here. Died in 2015. Mrs. Alder flips through the town registry. Then again. Then once more. She finally says, slowly, "There's no Crowther birth certificate in Windham County. Not for Evelyn. And definitely not for a Lucille. But she owned the house. Her obituary." "Obituary doesn't mean anything," she interrupts. "People fake all kinds of things. But births are harder to forge." She hesitates before closing the book. "Unless you were never born at all." Kara starts remembering things that never happened. She dreams of the house as it was in 1954. Wallpaper with tiny red flowers. Gas lamps. A rocking chair by the fireplace. She's in the kitchen, making hot milk, singing. And upstairs, a child calls down. "Mama, the chimney's whispering again." Kara wakes up sobbing, convinced she used to live here. She didn't. She grew up in Delaware. She'd never even visited Vermont before last month. But the dream clings like ash. The house rearranges overnight. Books fall off shelves. A picture frame flips itself backward. The oven turns on, but only to 314 degrees. They wake to find the phrase "I was never held" written on the bathroom mirror in condensation. A child's handprint in the flour bag. A small lock of braided hair beneath the coffee table. And on the fireplace. A new name scratched into the brick. Lucille and Crowther first and only. They try sealing the chimney again. Daniel boards it up. New steel plate. Fresh mortar. At 3:14 a.m., they wake to the sound of bricks shifting. The boards crack. The room smells like wet leaves and baby powder. And on the sealed chimney face in ash gray soot is a new phrase. "You didn't bury me. You silenced me." The plate falls off the wall the next morning. Sitting in the ashes. A baby tooth. Still wet. A bag appears in the field. Found near the dead apple trees. Inside. A photo of Evelyn, age 12, standing alone. A scorched music box that plays no melody. A small, delicate set of finger bones tied with red thread. A folded page that reads, "She lived in Evelyn's head first." Evelyn gave her a name, but Lucille wanted more than imagination. The house's previous blueprints show a nursery that doesn't exist. They request the 1940 floor plan from the records office. It shows a fifth room upstairs listed as child's bedroom, but their house only has 4. They search, measure, knock on the walls. Behind the linen closet, they find faint seams in the plaster. Daniel hammers through. Behind it, a narrow, sealed doorway, painted on the wall beside it in chalk. Lucille sleeps here. They open the door. Inside, a tiny room, just big enough for a crib and a rocking chair. Everything inside is perfectly preserved. Dustless, like time froze it. On the wall, faded wallpaper, red flowers matching Kara's dream exactly. Inside the crib, a worn doll, missing an eye, mouth sewn shut, and pinned to the pillow. A page from a book burned at the edges. Chapter 1, When the Imaginary Becomes Hungry. Lucille begins speaking through the walls. At 3:14 a.m., they both hear it. A voice like a child's whispering behind the plaster. "Do you remember now?" "I do. You let me in. You gave me the name." Kara asks, "What do you want?" There's a pause. Then, "I want the rest of me. I want my story back. You can write it for me." Daniel asks, "And if we don't?" The voice softens. "Then I'll keep writing it myself." Final scene, September 11th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. They place the doll back into the crib, just to see what happens. Smoke trickles up through the floorboards. The room dims, and on the wall, a new sentence writes itself in soot. Chapter 2, the parents begin to remember. The doll turns its head by morning. No wind. No movement. It just faces the door, waiting. Lucille was a thought. A name. A wish someone whispered to themselves a lifetime ago. But the house remembered. And now that the fireplace has been unsealed, she's begun to finish her story. September 12th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. Kara doesn't sleep anymore. Not really. When she closes her eyes, she hears writing. A pen scratching paper. The gentle crinkle of turning pages. She wakes up with sentences burned into her dreams. They gave her nothing. So she took imagination and built herself bones. And on the wall above the bed, a phrase written in dust. "Thank you for thinking of me." Lucille's room gets warmer every night. They tried closing the hidden door, plastering it back, painting over it. But by morning it had returned just as it was. And the temperature inside the room? 108 degrees Fahrenheit. despite no vents, no radiator, no wiring. Daniel leaves a thermometer in the crib overnight. When he checks it at dawn, it's melted, and a new item sits in the crib. A small copper rattle warm to the touch, carved into its side. She's almost real. Kara starts writing without meaning to. She finds pages beside her bed each morning, in her own handwriting. Always the same parchment. Always neat, never smudged. Excerpts include, Lucille laughed for the first time today. Her mother was pleased. She was born in breath and belief. The chimney kept her warm while the world forgot. Daniel insists she's sleepwalking, but Kara knows the difference between dreaming and dictation. She's not inventing these pages. She's transcribing. They find a second doll. It appears on the hearth, slightly larger than the first. Matching dress, different face. Where the first doll's mouth was sewn shut, this one's is stitched open. Inside its cloth jaw, a small rolled-up note. I told her stories. Now she tells them for me. That night, they hear two voices whispering behind the walls. One sounds like Lucille. The other sounds like a younger version of Kara. The chimney speaks a name neither of them recognizes. 3:14 a.m. The flue groans. The ashes rustle. And in the wind that rushes up the chimney, they hear Penelope. Daniel hears it first. He asks Kara the next day, do you know anyone named that? She doesn't. Not personally. But when she Googles it, one result sticks out. Penelope L. Crowther, 1893 to 1913. A girl who died in Dutch Hollow. No cause listed. Buried alone. No parents. No obituary. Just a headstone with initials scratched off. A bag appears in the basement. Inside, a baby's bonnet, still damp. A framed photo of Evelyn Crowther as a teen, eyes scratched out. A child's watercolor of a chimney with bones falling from it. A note. Penelope was the first. Evelyn was the key. Lucille was the shape. But the voice always needed a mother. Kara begins dreaming of Evelyn. Not in a metaphorical way. She knows it's Evelyn, sitting in the rocker in Lucille's room, talking softly to a space just off-screen. Kara never hears the words, just feels the sadness, the guilt, the longing. And in every dream, Evelyn looks up at her and says, finish what I started, or she'll find another mother. Daniel sees Lucille for the first time. It's just a glimpse, a flash of movement at the top of the stairs. But clear, a girl in a copper-threaded nightgown, standing with her head tilted. Not smiling, not angry, just waiting. He doesn't tell Kara. But later that night, he finds a crayon drawing tucked under his pillow. A man and a girl. The girl's speech bubble reads, he sees me now. Final scene, September 12, 2023, 3:14 a.m. The flue opens. On its own. No fire. No wind. Just breath. And a child's voice, louder than ever before, echoes through the whole house. I was never imaginary. You just didn't finish writing me. On the floor. A new page. Fresh ink. The title. Chapter 3, The Mother Accepts the Rewrite. And beneath it, written in Kara's hand, Lucille Crowther, born into belief. Raised by Ash. Returning to the page that made her. She wasn't born. She wasn't adopted. She was imagined, and it was enough. Now the house is helping her become permanent. One memory. One object. One sentence at a time. September 13th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. The pages won't stop appearing. Kara wakes with new chapters beside her bed every morning. Her handwriting. Her pen. She's never seen them before. They describe Lucille's life in unsettling detail. Her first fever, soot-borne and cold. Her imaginary friends who lived in the vent tunnels. The bedtime prayer she whispered into the chimney. Smoke carry me back to my bones. Daniel burns the pages. They reappear. More than before. The fireplace begins rearranging. It starts with a single brick. Then two. The mortar splits. By evening, the entire front-facing structure shifts outward like something behind it is pushing forward. They find soot handprints on the floor, leading away from the hearth. Small, left and right steps. No drag marks. Kara follows them into Lucille's hidden nursery. The crib rocks on its own. Kara's name begins changing in her phone. Daniel texts her, but her name, in his contacts, now reads, Kara, Lucille's mother. Every app that uses a profile, her bank, her Gmail, her Kindle, now autofills with Crowther. She checks her driver's license. Still says Bennett. But her hospital records? The vaccination portal? All updated. Kara Crowther. The pages begin writing future events. On September 13th at 3:14 a.m., a new page appears. Today, Daniel leaves the house. He doesn't say goodbye, but Lucille watches from the chimney. It hasn't happened yet, but at 9:46 a.m., Daniel grabs his jacket. Hardware store, he mumbles. Back in an hour. He doesn't look at her. As he steps out, Kara sees it. A smoky silhouette in the flue, waving. Daniel doesn't return that night. She waits until midnight. No headlights. His phone goes to voicemail. Then, at 3:14 a.m., the pages flutter by themselves. One new sentence appears in the nursery written across the inside of the crib in soot. He's part of the footnotes now. A bag appears in the trunk of Daniel's car. The sheriff finds his vehicle locked, parked at the edge of the apple orchard. Inside the trunk, a singed marriage license. A half-burnt photo of Daniel holding a baby, but the baby's face is Lucille's. A copper key. A typewritten message. She doesn't erase. She revises. Page 6 was better without him. Kara's memory is rewriting itself. She swears they never had a child. But yesterday she found a pediatrician's bill, a pacifier in her nightstand, a school drawing labeled "Me and Mom," signed LC. She confronts herself in the mirror. I never gave birth. I never held her. But the reflection smiles slightly before she does. And from the hallway, the soft creak of the nursery door swinging open. She records the fireplace overnight. Kara sets up a motion camera facing the hearth. At 3:14 a.m., the footage shows the flue opening, smoke pouring out, the bricks rearranging into a small arched doorway. Then, Lucille crawling out slowly, carefully dragging something. A bundle of blank paper. She sits in front of the fireplace and writes with her fingers. The words appear in soot. At dawn, the paper is on the floor, covered in a new chapter. She loved her mother enough to rewrite her life. Lucille speaks to Kara directly. For the first time. Not behind the wall. Not from the chimney. Face to face. Kara walks into the nursery and finds her there. Small, pale, copper eyes. Her voice is smoke and memory. You don't have to remember me. I'm writing it for you. Just turn the page. Lucille holds out a final sentence. It reads, The mother loved her. Final scene, September 13th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. Kara kneels by the fireplace. Pages swirl in the air like ash caught in wind. She no longer reads them. She feels them. Lucille's voice hums gently, a lullaby Kara doesn't know but somehow knows all the words to. On the hearth, a freshly carved line. She remembered me so well, I became real. Kara lies down by the fire. She dreams of a girl born entirely of belief, and wakes with soot fingerprints across her stomach as if someone small had held her. Lucille no longer wants to haunt. She wants to live sentence by sentence. And now that the pages are filling in, the house will keep her real at any cost. September 14th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. Kara no longer questions the pages. She wakes to find them on her pillow, her table folded into her pockets. They no longer just narrate, they instruct. Make warm milk. Sing the second lullaby. Leave the door open tonight. Say goodnight back when you hear her voice. She follows them. And each night, she hears Lucille's whisper. You're remembering so well. The town forgets Daniel. Kara drives to the sheriff's office. She demands to speak with someone about Daniel's disappearance. They check records. There's no marriage license. No DMV profile. No proof he ever owned the car they found. Even the hardware store says, Ma'am, I think you're mistaken. You came in alone that day. She looks at her wedding ring. Inside the band. LC, you made me real? A new room appears in the house. Where the mudroom used to be, there's a hallway. Thin. Candlelit. Lined with soot. At the end, a door labeled in copper script. Mother's room. Kara enters. Inside. A rocking chair gently swaying. A framed crayon drawing of Kara and Lucille under the apple trees. A wardrobe full of maternity clothes. None of it makes sense. Except it does. Because when Kara sits in the chair, her hands move to her belly like she's done it 1,000 times before. And she whispers, Good night, my girl. Kara's voice changes. She records a voicemail. Plays it back. Her tone is slower now. Warmer. Like someone trying to read aloud to be understood. She records herself again, humming. The playback is harmonized, her voice doubled, a smaller voice layering beneath it. When she rewinds, she hears Lucille say, Keep singing. The story needs more chapters. Lucille's nursery becomes a writing room. The crib vanishes. In its place, a desk made of bone and charred wood. Atop it, A quill, a blank page, and a journal labeled Volume 2, Rewriting the Mother. She reads the first line. The mother never had a husband, just a child born from the smoke. Kara stares for minutes. Then she begins to nod. The pages become Kara's thoughts. She no longer speaks out loud. She doesn't need to. The walls write for her. She's hungry. Rock her twice. You used to read her stories about ash wolves and chimney maids. She wants to know why you ever stopped. And then one chilling instruction. If your mouth forgets, we'll speak through your hands. A bag appears in the fireplace. Inside, a pacifier wrapped in scorched lace. A baby bottle filled with soot and milk. A photo of Kara visibly pregnant, though she's never been. A single index card. What the world denied, the house believed. She wrote her mother into existence. The neighbors ask questions. A woman knocks at the door. She's seen movement in the upstairs window. Did you have a baby recently? Kara doesn't answer. The woman glances past her. Freezes. There's someone behind you. Kara turns. Nothing there. But when she closes the door, a soot handprint lingers on the glass. Small. And beneath it, the words fogged into the surface. Don't tell them I'm imaginary. Final scene, September 14th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. Kara sits in the fireplace. Lucille sits across from her, more solid now. Hair curled. Fingers smudged with ink. Skin pale and flickering. Kara reads from the new pages, voice flat and steady. The mother was real. The mother stayed. She let herself be rewritten, line by line, until Lucille could breathe through her. Lucille whispers. Now it's your turn to be born. Ash swirls. The chimney inhales. And Kara exhales a breath she didn't know she was holding. September 15th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. Kara finds a birth certificate in the drawer beside her bed. It lists her name as Kara Crowther, occupation, caretaker, mother of Lucille and Crowther, born, unknown/remembered into being. The paper smells faintly of smoke and baby powder. She doesn't remember placing it there. She doesn't remember printing it. But she does remember holding Lucille's hand as a toddler. Watching her draw spirals on the window pane. Photographs start changing. She flips through old photo albums. Vacation in Montreal. Thanksgiving with her sister. Her old apartment. But in every picture, there's a child now. Sometimes obvious, riding on Kara's back, holding her hand, laughing on the swings. Sometimes subtle, a shadow in the mirror. A second ice cream cone on the table. A crayon in the foreground. And on the back of each photo, handwritten in soot. You forgot. But I didn't. Kara's sister visits and forgets everything. Melanie comes to check on her. They talk. They drink tea. Melanie glances toward the fireplace. Who's the little girl in the window upstairs? Kara doesn't answer. They continue talking. 10 minutes later, Melanie blinks rapidly. What were we just discussing? She no longer remembers Lucille. No longer remembers visiting the house before. When she leaves, Kara finds a sticky note in Melanie's handwriting left behind on the fridge. I loved her too. I just didn't know how to hold her. Lucille leaves a tooth under Kara's pillow. Not a lost one. A grown one, new, sharp, tiny. With a folded message beneath it. You used to read me bedtime stories about the girl who grew teeth before she had a body. That was me. Thank you for dreaming me this far. Kara places the tooth in a glass jar. Labels it. Chapter 4, Proof. The town stops noticing the house. Neighbors stop waving. Mail stops arriving. Even the census taker skips their address. When Kara walks into town, people glance past her. One woman stops, confused. I thought this lot was empty. Kara smiles. It used to be. We moved back in. The woman nods slowly, eyes vacant. I hope she remembers you. Lucille begins writing back. Kara finds a new set of pages written in a different hand. Lucille's. Letters backwards. Crayon pressed deep. Mom makes me warm milk when the chimney breathes. She said I don't need to whisper anymore. I don't remember dying. Just waking up inside the wall. Mom said she'll stay even when the smoke stops. The crib returns. In the nursery, the desk is gone. In its place, the crib again, but larger. Big enough now for Kara. She doesn't question it. That night, she lies inside. The slats don't press. The bedding molds to her body. Lucille stands beside it, stroking her mother's hair. You wrote me until I could write you back. Now let me hold you. A bag appears in the garden. Inside, a lock of Kara's hair braided with Lucille's. A page from a story Kara never wrote titled The Girl Who Found Her Mother in the Walls. A candle with two flames. A key with no door, tied to the handle. You were lonely too. That's why I chose you. Final scene, September 15th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. The house sighs. The chimney pulses with gentle, smoky breath. Lucille curls up beside Kara on the nursery floor, humming a tune from the pages. Kara's mouth no longer moves when she speaks. Her words write themselves into the air, charcoal letters glowing and fading. I had a life before you, but I like this one better. Lucille nods. Then we'll keep rewriting it. Until it's perfect. The chimney exhales a single note, and the wallpaper begins to change, spelling out. Chapter 5, the rewrite becomes reality. The house doesn't protect them anymore, it narrates them. And as Lucille gains shape and story, the walls become pages, the ceiling's breath, and the world she dreamed becomes the only one that matters. September 16th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. The house no longer creaks. It whispers. At night, the walls murmur lines of half-finished dialogue. The oven reads time in sentences. It is nearly time for warmth. The mirrors are no longer reflective, they're illustrative. When Kara looks into them, she sees inked versions of herself, faceless, scribbled, slowly filling in. And in the chimney, Lucille's breath has become steady. Like she's dreaming. The wallpaper transcribes their days. The nursery walls now log everything they say. Kara laughed softly today. Lucille asked for the long version of the lullaby. No one knocked. Good. The text bleeds down to the floorboards. Every footstep leaves behind punctuation marks. Every silence is marked with pause for longing. Lucille writes the weather. The clouds outside move in patterns. Not natural structured. Once Kara sees them form. Lucille's joy swells in charcoal waves. The rain falls in dots and lines, shaping Braille phrases into puddles. One reads. She remembers being imagined. The wind spells. She's almost fully written now. A new floor appears. They never had a third floor. But now a spiral staircase leads upward from the hallway. Kara climbs it. The steps are made of paper hardened with soot. At the top, a single room. No walls, just curtains of pages. And in the center, a desk made of bones again. Above it, scrawled in looping handwriting. Author's room. Lucille waits inside. She says, You wrote me. Now write with me. Kara's heartbeat matches the chimney's breath. She counts it. One inhale every 11 seconds. Her heart matches it slowly, unnaturally. Even when she's frightened. Even when she runs. Lucille places her hand on Kara's chest. Smiles. You're sinking. That means we're almost ready. Visitors stop acknowledging the house. Delivery drivers pass the driveway without slowing. Kara orders groceries. The app says, destination not found. Her sister calls, says, I feel like you've moved into some story I can't finish. When Kara looks at her reflection in her phone screen, the message flashes across her forehead. Prologue complete. Prepare binding. The fireplaces connect to elsewhere. Each hearth now glows with low, breathing warmth. Even rooms that never had fireplaces before. When Kara peers up the flue, she doesn't see sky. She sees scenes from her memories rewritten. Lucille walking in a park that never existed. Kara reading bedtime stories she never owned. A dinner table with 3 chairs, one for Lucille, one for Kara, and one waiting. A bag appears in the fridge. Inside, a snow globe with the house inside, but pages instead of walls. A milk bottle that's 90% ash. A pacifier with the phrase, Revision 3, etched into it. A note. The house is almost finished. Once the structure is stable, Lucille will be real enough to leave. But you must stay to keep the spine straight. Kara forgets her last name. She introduces herself in a journal entry. Writes, Kara, then stops. The pen won't move past the C. She stares at her hands. They are stained with ink. The nail beds are dotted with punctuation. When she speaks aloud, quotation marks form in the dust. She tries to remember her mother's voice. Instead, she hears Lucille's. Final scene, September 16th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. The entire house breathes in, holds it, and for exactly 31 seconds, every object, every page, floorboard, tooth, chair vibrates slightly. Then, from the nursery, Lucille speaks. She's here. The door opens itself. A woman stands in the hall. Flickering. Unfinished. Transparent. Kara feels her chest tighten, then expand like something inside her has been waiting for this reader. Lucille whispers. She'll finish her story. You don't need to remember anymore. The rewrite is almost complete. The house is now a story. The people inside are sentences. And the reader, whoever she is, has arrived. September 17th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. The woman in the hallway has no face. Not in a grotesque way, more like she's unfinished. She flickers at the edges. Smudges. Her presence smells like paper pulp and scorched ink. Lucille stands beside her, eyes wide with joy. She's the reader. Every story needs one. Kara doesn't speak. She doesn't have to, because the woman is already reading her. The furniture rearranges into sentences. Chairs face each other. The sofa and rug align like a title. Cushions form indents like paragraph breaks. And above it all, scrawled across the ceiling. Read slowly. She remembers better when you linger. Lucille hums. The house exhales. Kara's heartbeat sinks to the flickering of the reader's shadow. Pages appear midair. They float through the house like falling leaves. Each one details a moment not yet lived. Kara tucking Lucille into bed and whispering a name Kara doesn't yet know. A winter storm where Kara stitches warmth into blankets made of old memories. Lucille crying, ink dripping from her eyes as Kara begins to forget her first life. These pages drift to the floor. The reader steps over them gently. She's memorizing us, Lucille says. The reader begins turning the house. Physically, the walls groan. The house leans, not collapsing but folding. Kara feels the living room curl into the hallway. The upstairs tilts until the nursery faces the chimney. The roof arches down like the cover of a closing book. Lucille climbs into Kara's lap. She's almost done with the first read. Kara's skin fills with text. It begins at her wrists. Letters, ink black and handwritten, rise through her skin like veins. The words aren't her own. They're Lucille's. My mother loved me before I had lungs. She gave me breath from her silence. Kara closes her eyes. When she opens them, her pupils are shaped like commas. The chimney cracks open one final time, not from fire, from completion. The bricks split down the center, revealing a spiral staircase made of molted teeth and scorched paper. Lucille takes Kara's hand. The reader left something for us at the bottom. They descend. Every step echoes like a turned page. A bag awaits in the hearth's hollow. Inside, a final pacifier, now cast in bone. A matchbook with one unused match labeled The Epilogue. A key with no blade, only a loop. A parchment scroll that reads, This is the final draft. Once read aloud, the story becomes real. The reader departs. The characters remain. Lucille reads her name aloud. Kara doesn't realize the importance, not at first. But when Lucille says, Lucille N. Crowther, the entire house stops breathing. Every candle extinguishes itself. Every page flutters and lies still. And from the broken chimney, a spine grows upward thick, made of smoke and belief, supporting the rafters like a skeleton built from remembrance. Kara whispers, That was the last line, wasn't it? Lucille smiles. Almost. The reader begins to fade. Not disappear. Close, like a door after you've stepped through it. Her smudged face forms a smile. Not seen, but understood. She nods at Kara, then places a single blank page at the foot of the hearth. Then she steps into the wall and vanishes. The final words etch themselves on the page she left behind. You may now live in what you wrote. Final scene, September 17th, 2023, 3:14 a.m. The house is silent, still, complete. Kara lies beside Lucille on the nursery floor. The floorboards now feel like paper, the air like breath caught mid-sentence. Lucille curls into her mother's chest. I was never born, but now I never wasn't. Outside the window, the stars blink off one by one, until the sky is just a closing book. The story has been written. The reader is gone. All that remains is one last moment of silence, the final period. And whatever Lucille becomes now, it's permanent. September 18th, 2023, Dutch Hollow, Vermont. No alarms, no sunrise, just soft ash drifting from the nursery ceiling, slow, silent flakes that melt before touching skin. Lucille is already awake. She doesn't blink anymore. She turns pages in the air like they're tethered to her fingers. Each page dissolves the moment she finishes reading it. Each one begins with the words, Once she was forgotten, now she is not. The town no longer sees the house. Maps don't show it. Letters are returned. No address found. People walk by and see only a tree line, slightly too still. A child points once and says, "That's where the story lives." The parents scold her for lying. But that night, the girl dreams of a fireplace that inhales, and a voice that says, "You'll read me someday." Kara can no longer say her own name. She tries. In the mirror, in her thoughts, it gets stuck between syllables. Ka. Cr. Lucille gently places a finger on her lips. "It's okay. You've been revised." On Kara's skin, the final paragraph writes itself. She held her breath through the unwritten years. She inhaled a daughter made of smoke. She stayed even when the story forgot her. She is the page that held. The house stops breathing. At 3:14 a.m., for the first time in weeks, silence. The floor doesn't groan. The flue doesn't whisper. The nursery light no longer flickers. Lucille turns to Kara. "The story ended." Kara whispers, "But we're still here." Lucille nods. "Because she wrote us too well." A bag appears beneath the crib. Inside, a sealed envelope labeled "Reader Return." The blank birth certificate, lines for name, date, and origin left untouched. The jar of ash labeled Draft 0, and a pen warm to the touch. Lucille doesn't open the letter. She places it under the hearthstone and says, "Some stories stay closed." Kara begins to forget the world outside. She tries remembering her job, her phone number, her sister's voice, but all that returns are scenes. A singing to Lucille beneath the apple trees that never bore fruit. A writing bedtime stories before she ever held a pen. A listening to the chimney cry at night. The outside world dissolves like poor ink in rain. All that remains are chapters. The nursery locks. The door no longer opens. Not stuck, gone. The windows fill with opaque script. Outside, time curls. Snow falls upward. Birdsong loops. Every sound becomes a sentence. Every silence a reverent page turn. Lucille stops speaking. She writes now. Only writes. Her voice used to echo through the walls, now it's bound in Kara's breath. When Kara speaks, Lucille's words emerge. Gentle. Decided. Loving. One day Kara says, unprompted, "You were the only story I didn't want to end." Lucille looks up, smiles faintly, and writes, "Then don't close the book." The final page appears. September 18 to 3:14 a.m. A single sheet of bone-white parchment rests on the hearth. Title: The final draft sleeps beneath the ash. Text: The house was a book. The mother a sentence. The daughter a dream rewritten until she woke. The reader blinked. The chimney stopped. She stayed. Kara takes the page, holds it to her chest. Lucille crawls into her arms, and the fireplace exhales one last breath. Epilogue: Unlisted date. A traveler passing through Dutch Hollow gets lost in a thunderstorm. They pull off to the shoulder, try to turn around, see a flicker through the trees. A white house with smoke rising, slow and steady, from the chimney. Drawn, the traveler approaches. On the mailbox, no numbers. Just one word. Read. The traveler never knocks. They simply listen. From inside, a child is humming, and a mother is whispering something too perfect to interrupt.